Hey BookTube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here to do another set of 5 book reviews for my 2017 5 book review thing that we're doing here. This is going to be books 46 through 50. Book number 46 is A Bollywood Affair by Sonali Dev. I loved this book. This is a romance book with an Indian protagonist. Actually, all Indian characters, an entirely Indian cast for the most part. And this book is really, really great. It's really, really sweet. I really loved this romance because this does an actual arranged marriage romance in the first format I've ever read outside of fan fiction. And I really, really read it because it's really, really great way to talk about some of the cultural stuff within India and within this Indian family and the way that their culture and the happily ever after of romance books and Western romance stories can interact with each other, which was really, really cool and not something I'd ever read about before in a romance book or really in any book. Not to mention the sex scenes in this book are super hot. So I'm really excited that I have 2 more other Sonali Dev books. The next thing I read is actually a reread, and that is Love is Love by IDW Publishing. This is a graphic novel that was published shortly after the Orlando mass shooting last year in 2016. This is DC and IDW working together to put out a comic to raise money for the Orlando Victims Fund, and it is stories from different comic creators and writers and illustrators all about their own sexuality and queerness and the future of love and politics and sexuality in this country. This comic book made me cry so many times. There are so many stories in here about hope, but also about loss and about family and about our children and what the future is going to look like and what we're going to teach them and how we're going to teach them and how important love is. And there were pages of this comic that I made photocopies of so I could hang them up in my cubicle at work. I really recommend picking it up if you can find it. There are digital copies online or buying the physical one. I really, really it's a great sampler platter of different artists and styles about a topic that's really, really important. So it's kind of a double punch for your money in terms of the value of the comic. The next book I read is White Tears by Hari Kunzru, and y'all, this book is fucking crazy. This book is batshit bananas. This book is about 2 white dude main characters, one of whom is really rich and one of whom is really, really super into music, especially what he calls black music. So the book is about music and it's about cultural appropriation and it's about race and it's a ghost story. I didn't know when I picked it up that it is like a ghost story of the highest order. Like there is some freaky ass shit that happens in this book, but it's so great that it's able to do the horror part and the race part so great. And these levels just like mesh together so well that when the end rolls around and you realize what's actually happening and all the lock tumblers fall into place, I was just like, holy fucking shit, what is this book? Ooh, I'm going to be talking about this book and thinking about this book for a long ass time because it does such a great job of looking at music and race and money and appropriation and culture, and it's so scary and it was just so fucking baller. It's so good. So great. Yeah, I will link to some reviews down below, especially one done by, I believe, Ira over at Lady Business wrote about it. And I think that they wrote about White Tears and Semiotics, but I'm going to double check that. I really, really recommend that you check those links out below because A+ fantastic. The next book that I read was a podcast read, and that is The Graces by Laura Eve. And I am pretty sure by the time this comes out that the episode will already be up, and in which case I will link it down below. If not, as soon as it is out, I will link it down below. I liked this book. This book gave me very virgin suicide-y kind of feelings, but also with witches. There aren't really any likable characters. The tragic gay trope makes its way in there, but also the writing is really beautiful, and it's just got this very kind of creepy, ethereal, removed kind of vibe that I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it nearly as much as the other girls did when we read it, but it's definitely not a book for everybody, and it's definitely a book that's got some problems. So I would really recommend caution when picking it up and doing some kind of research before you decide to dive on in. And the last book I'm going to talk about, book number 50. I can't believe it's the 50th book that I've read this year already. It's such a great book for the 50th book milestone. That is You Can't Touch My Hair and Other Things I Still Have to Explain by Phoebe Robinson. I listened to this on audio. Phoebe Robinson is fucking hilarious. She is one half of the Two Dope Queens podcast. It's her and Jessica Williams, and they do a comedy podcast where they talk about all about race and femininity, and they bring in stand-up comics, and they talk about pop culture and liking white stuff and liking black stuff and how all of that works and how you represent yourself in your race in the modern world. Her book is just fucking hilarious. She talks about being a woman. She talks about being a black woman. She talks about issues with black hair and how black hair can represent so many other issues that it have when it comes to race. She talks about interracial racism and how black people often tell her she's not black enough and all of these things. She also talks about what it's like to be a stand-up comic and what it's like to come from this kind of middle-class background when you have activist parents and how that can interplay with going through life and your experience as wanting to be a black stand-up comic and a female black stand-up comic. I just really, really recommend picking it up. Phoebe Robinson is so smart and so clever and so observant and so funny, and it comes across so well. She reads it in her own voice, so it literally is just like sitting down with this super fucking smart and super fucking funny woman and having her just like tell you stories about her life, which is my favorite kind of memoir to listen to on audio. So definitely recommend picking it up. Definitely recommend checking out the Two Dope Queens podcast if you never have. And that is book number 50 and the last book for this wrap up. As always, let me know down below what you've read, what you're reading or going to read in the near future. Come find me on social media so we can talk books together. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have happy reading. Bye.